Yes. That sounds like a plan. Well, I'm Rachel. I don't know if you said your intro. It's been a day. Oh, okay. So 2020, it continues to not disappoint. And I think a lot of us feel the same way. Uh-oh. Colin, are you muted? Okay, I got a note that you might be. Okay. All right. 2020. Awesome so far. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing it in the rearview mirror. I don't know how other people feel about this year. One of the ideas that came to me came to us while we were thinking about what we should talk about with the end of the year was the idea of whether people want to reflect on the things that have happened or whether they just want to draw a line in the sand, have a massive dumpster fire, which I think I might be doing with some paperwork, and then to start looking towards the future and looking towards 2021 and planning as to how you, whether it's resolutions or whether it's literally planning the year ahead. It could be on paper, making a beautiful planner. It could be just in your mind. But right now, let's talk about the pre-December 31st, and let's reflect. Let's take some time to talk about ways that we can reflect. Now, one of the things that we want to do, one of the pieces that came to me through a member, a friend, and someone who has also been on the show a couple times, Ashley Warren from A Scribe Mind. She had actually shared in one of her posts about a website / booklet called Year Compass. It's based in, I can't remember where, and I want to say Norway. But what they do is it's a full-on reflection of the year prior, and then also some planning for the year ahead. It's yearcompass.com. You can get a booklet mailed to you, but I think only in Europe. But you can print and download and fold up this booklet. And what Colin and I have decided to do is to have a future, whether it's an episode or just a special episode, that we are going to have someone, if it's not us, maybe Ashley, lead us through filling out the year compass. And so we'll do that as kind of a event, if you will, but you can also join Year Compass online on Facebook and do it with them. But to me, I thought 2020 definitely deserved a good amount of reflection, bit of a dumpster fire, and time to look forward to 2021. What about you? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh no. Okay. Well, Colin is saying some really interesting things, so I'm going to try and fill in. Um, we one of the things that we were talking about was to actually pull some members together and to do the Year Compass as a project. We also, a lot of us here at the collective, and I bet a lot of people out in the world are in love with paper. from everything from to-do lists to journals. And we have our favorites, also productivity, so bullet journaling, etc. But the whole journal, I don't know, lack of a better term, journal porn that you can get into, the gorgeous journals you can buy, the artists that decorate and plan out their journals. Yeah, you can go down a whole rabbit hole with that.
I
So
think my mic is
one,
back.
oh, okay. Well,
We'll
we're going to
we're
try
gonna have
this.
Saul let me know, but
Okay.
go ahead.
So another one that a friend mentioned to me was something, and I don't know if this is a ritual that she made up or if it's something that she's done before. But a little shout out to our member Addie. She's going to be doing with her and her husband's family. They're doing something called a hype list, and what they're going to do is create a list of the 10 best things that happened to them this year. None of the negative crap, just 10 great things that happened. Then they're going to Zoom call, share them with each other, leave the call, spend a little bit of time, well, celebrate together on the call together, and then also spend some time just sort of reflecting on it and getting a little positivity from the year. So I thought that was a really great idea. The hype list is what she called it. So I don't know,
Nice.
maybe it's out there.
Yeah, I think we can create our own little list that we can put up on the blog of things that you can end the year with. But what I was saying when no one could hear me was
Yeah,
that it'll be
important things.
good to get members together and just set aside that time to do it, because I think this is one of those things that everyone wishes that they did, once they're into 2021, and you really do have to set time aside to do this, or it's just not going to happen. You got to make time for it. So I'm looking forward to doing the year compass. We'll definitely do that on Zoom and get everybody's faces up here, so that we can just take the time to do that together.
Yeah, I think that'd be great fun.
A fun one that I really like. This is kind of it's a year-end ritual that you don't really have to do much if you're a Spotify listener. They do this every year where they do Spotify Unwrapped, and I listen to music almost all day long when I'm working. So it's been really interesting to see. It goes through like the trends of what you've been listening to, what artists you discovered this year, what song was the song that they have a lot of really funny jokes about 2020, about like what song got you through the year and stuff like that.
Aww.
And for me, it's just, I mean, I listen to a lot of like the kind of music that we're playing on the show right now when I'm coding. And so, it found the genres that I was listening to was French. Of course, I'm going
Like
to
French electronic,
it was,
right?
yeah, it was French New Touch was the genre, and so it's basically
Okay.
like a French house or like Daft Punk style. And then the
Yeah.
other one was Vapor Soul, which I did not know was a type of music, but now if you want to check this
Huh.
out, check out Vapor Soul and French New Touch if you want some good music to work to. I mean, I don't know, I can't speak the words, so they don't distract me, and it's a lot of French music, and it's pretty helpful for that.
Yes, that is so funny. We had, so Lara, one of our members, is she speaks Spanish and she's from South America. She actually, what was it that we had? The Gypsy Kings. And she came and asked, hey, can we change that? Because all I can hear is words.
Yeah,
And I thought, oh, yeah, like didn't even think about that. For the rest of, well, for most of us, we weren't understanding all the words. It was music in the background. But for her, yeah,
it was
she was
very
listening to that.
distracting. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Ah,
So
interesting.
that's a fun one. It doesn't have to be serious to look back. And I think there's a few other things like look for the apps that you use. I use Strava. They always do like a year end thing where you log in with Strava and it shows you like all the different, they like try to do analogies like you rode or you ran as far as this many lakes or this many mountains and things like that. And it just kind of shows you just a recap of how you did. And for me, it's like, yeah, it's just showing like I did not run as much. I mean, we didn't do a lot of things that we wanted to do this year, right? And I think
Yeah.
reflecting back on that is good. And I hesitate to say make resolutions for next year because we don't know what's happening, but making goals for what's going to happen in the future and not necessarily creating any time bounds on those, because obviously we've talked about this before. Resolutions, most people tend to not follow through with them, but
Yeah.
figuring out what habit or trip or something like that that you can start to plan for whenever it might happen, right?
Right.
I shared a video of the new Super Mario Land in Japan, And so now that's like, okay, post COVID, post safe travel, that's a good place to go to, but I need to start planning for that because obviously you got to start saving and planning all that out. Um, but
Yeah, the number of savings accounts that are going to be called post COVID
post COVID
is going to
goals,
be crazy.
yes. But
Post COVID travel.
speaking of money, the other one that I like to do at the end of every year and try to do it a few times a year is to audit my recurring expenses. And
Right.
that one is mostly just like a good thing to do to see what subscriptions have snuck into your life. And this is obviously a more serious year end thing where you're looking back on not looking back on what you've wasted money on because we needed things to cope with this year, but maybe
Yeah.
you signed up for all the subscription video services and you're probably not
Yeah.
watching all of them. And just taking an audit of those things and maybe reroute some of that into that, post COVID Japan fund instead. So you can start to hit those goals and do all that.
Yeah, like discovering that your gym, even though it's been shut, has still been charging you.
Yeah.
That those might be in there.
Yeah.
There might be a few things that you're not using that are still showing up.
Yeah. And some of those might be
Yeah.
things that you want to keep paying for, right? We want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that some of those gyms are still around after all of this and
Yeah,
all of that.
that's true too.
So it's
That's
something
true
to think
too.
about. Just like
Yeah.
your
Well,
co-working spaces.
yes, yes, yes. Well, I was thinking the gyms that you never went to anyway.
Right.
But
But you
yeah,
were
no,
going
that's a
to.
good
You were
point.
going to go.
Yes, you were going to. But that's a very good point. I take it back. Don't stop paying for that. Um, yeah, it is going, I think it's going to be very difficult to reflect on this year with positivity in all areas, which I guess is, why the hype list was something that Addie shared. Because if we don't purposely pull out those positive notes, we can easily just bundle it up and throw it in the dumpster and light it on fire and go 2020 sucked ass and I'm leaving it there. Except it was an entire year. I don't know how many people everyone says this. Oh my God, it's December. And where did March through November even go? Um, yeah, I mean, like my kids are 1 year older, like
Yeah.
that there was a lot in there that did happen. How much we've changed here at the collective, like what co-working itself has changed and morphed and all of those things throughout this year. Our personal relationships. I mean, I was used to seeing 20 to 30 people and saying good morning and goodbye to all those people, and now there's couple of us that are milling around, and conversation is online or email or Zoom, and yeah, reflecting on those things and like the benefits of those things that we can take into the new year, I think is also
Definitely.
really important.
Yeah, well, and in some cases, I mean, this has shown the light on what we, in some cases, took for granted, or,
Yeah.
never fully appreciated how easy it was to go to the store without having to wear a mask, being able to just be around people. We were joking about how, if you haven't watched it at home, the latest season of the Great British Bake Off is a must watch, because they actually did a full season during COVID where they bubbled every one of the contestants. So everyone who participated had to agree that they're not going to leave the the compound that they built for this. I'm assuming that meant the judges as well, and that, the show must go on. But it's just very weird to see people, being interacting so closely without masks and doing the things like life was before, and that life will be again, right? That there's a lot of optimistic news coming out about vaccines and things, but being able to watch Great British Bake Off and it's very relaxing, just to watch anyway, but then to know that like this is like was made this year as well, and that people are still living, and that we're, even of us, those of us at home,
Yeah.
life still goes on, life is going forward, and just writing down those things that you're grateful for, and in some cases, I think this kind of segues into Stay Home, Be Creative, but there was a bunch of us, also prompted by Ashley Warren, that were part of a thing last weekend called Stay Home, Be Creative, that's really kind of continuing on. But the idea is, instead of thinking of it as time lost, after you've taken care of yourself and met all your basic needs, can you turn some of this time into time to actually start something, write a book, read a book, whatever that might be. I think a lot of us have these goals that we're putting off and putting off and putting off until there's like a perfect time to do it, and there
Yeah.
is no perfect time, as we've seen. And so in that, my project was we did a was it 3 or 4 day live stream.
Right.
So we had different streamers like we are right now on Twitch, streaming video games, streaming D&D, streaming writing sessions, that kind of stuff. And then I did a live streams of me building an app. So I actually built stayhomebecreative.com, which I'll put in chat. And the site is very, very new, so there's not a lot there right now. But the idea is to have people post activities that they can do at home, so that other people might be encouraged to do certain things that they just didn't think about. Obviously, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like bake bread, bake
Right.
sourdough, bake brioche. It starts to escalate. It's like you start
Yep.
creating your own sourdough starters, things like that.
Yep.
But then there's also like some people were like, oh, well, we didn't go out on a date the entire coronavirus, and so what does it look like to have a date at home or to
Mm-hmm.
connect with friends? Like we did Zoom Jackbox games on Zoom for Thanksgiving, and uh,
Nice.
a lot of people just it's a little bit of an effort to have a lot of fun and still connect to each other, even if you're not able to be together. So the whole idea though is like stay home, be creative, and continue to flatten the curve while we hopefully roll out vaccines and things and emerge from this.
Yeah, well, and there's nothing to say that while you're staying home, your creativity could come from that reflection as well.
Yeah.
Just the simple act of like sitting down with some good music and spending time, um, thinking if you've got a quiet moment. Um, it's when you were talking about that, I was reminded a friend of mine, in fact, a friend of both of ours, a woman named Vanessa, uh, one many years ago said to me on my birthday, which is in August, said to me, happy new year to you. And ever since then, I've sort of looked at my birthday because it's, that's when I started my trip around the sun. And so, yeah, that's my new year, right?
Yeah.
And, but thinking about how, like, while we're so disconnected, for some reason, this year, this changeover of years to me is very significant, because even though we're so disconnected, like the entire world is in this together.
Yeah.
And so it really does feel like there's an aspect of wanting to reflect on this year that I've spent like in with the universe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Well,
have some like
there's
French soft touch music in the background now, but like the universe coming together
this is
in a
definitely
way that on my
this is definitely a vapor soul moment for sure.
vapor soul moment. In the way that like for my birthday, it's very, your own birthday, it's very I don't know, self, yeah, you're very, oh,
It's focused on
it's
you
about you.
versus
Yeah, it's all about you. Whereas this year to me feels like something that we're all going through this changeover, even though
yeah
December 31st to the 1st hopefully is not some like big crazy event. It's just one quiet evening in where I'll be sharing a bottle of champagne with my
yeah
husband as the children are asleep, and I'll probably be asleep by like New York time, but we'll have watched one ball drop.
yeah
Like, so yeah, I think that's what this year, being involved in the idea of reflecting, is to me. The universe as a whole is involved in this,
yeah
in this new year. I think we're all looking forward to the
Well,
change.
and obviously there's a lot of bad that has come with the year, but the idea that in some way a shared experience that's being taken by everyone
Yeah.
usually brings people closer together, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be interesting to see. In some ways it's more of like post-COVID, pre-COVID. It's almost like the new year will be when this is behind us, is what does life look like?
Yeah.
What do we keep from all of this experience? What do we learn from, or do we go back to our old ways, right? How long does
Right.
that take? Because there's not a lot out there. I think some people have been trying to see like what how long did it take things to get somewhat normal after 1918? And obviously
Hmm.
there was the Roaring Twenties after 1918 as well. It probably
Yeah.
wasn't immediate, but there's some things to learn from there. But I do hope that people, have some grace in all of this, and take some of this with them. Um, you know, Everyone who wants to be able to continue to go to a gym as often as they want without having restrictions and things like that. But in some ways, I bet people will be traveling and going on those things that they never, they always said, "Oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it later," and you
Yeah.
take for granted that later might not come. So
Hmm.
it's definitely something to think about. But I do think that, again, that shared experience, which is something that we try to replicate at the collective too, and shared
Yeah.
experiences bring people together. It builds community,
Yeah.
and it makes it stronger and more resilient. So any businesses out there, if you guys are struggling through this but have been pivoting around what you do for work, finding new hobbies, like those things just make us stronger, which is great.
Yeah. Well, and helping your employees pivot to whether it's, a work from home
Mm-hmm.
situation full time, or you've maybe have been welcoming a few people back in the space. And, it's just, yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
having a
part of
meeting is going to be
me,
exciting, right? It used to be like, oh, I have to
right.
have a meeting with someone in person. Like, no, I want to go do this. I don't want to do
Yeah.
another Zoom call. I don't.
But I'm also like, ooh, I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm so used to this that the idea of sitting in a room with four other people makes me kind of itchy.
yeah.
Like,
But that was
do we
kind.
all have a personal air purifier, or like what's happening here?
Those space helmets.
Yes.
But that was what was, again, strange to watch in the Great British Bake Off. Is it's like,
Right.
I wonder how long some of this shared trauma even sticks around, right?
Mm-hmm.
That unease, and being able to trust that everyone's
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah. I
we'll
mean,
see.
I find commercials nowadays, if it is strangers or people in shared rooms or things like that, if they're not masked, I find it very
Yeah,
uncomfortable
yeah.
to
Watching
watch.
watching movies and all of this, it's
Yeah,
very
I'm
weird.
like, there's too many people in that boardroom. Like, don't touch that person. They
Yeah,
might have COVID.
yeah.
It's, and how come those children don't have to wear masks? What kind of school is this? Yeah, it is so very strange. But there is something about, again, as distant as we are very well connected with internet and social media and such. But I've not traveled outside of, my state.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't traveled to any of these states that I see pictures of where things might be different, or countries where things might be different, where regulations might be stronger or lesser. Um, I haven't experienced, where like an entire town is sick, or small towns. I mean, I don't know if it still is, but there was like one little town in Nevada that was the
Mm-hmm.
only town in the country that didn't have it or something. They didn't have one case. And so,
For a long time, yeah. I
yeah,
think they
yeah,
finally had one,
yeah,
unfortunately. But
yeah. Unfortunately, it
yeah,
comes for all. But yeah, it'll be really nice, I think, to put 2020 in the rearview mirror. But I do like the idea of making like a COVID New Year.
yeah.
So like,
It's the
when
pre.
will that be? Like, will we celebrate it like Armistice Day or Labor Day? Something like that. It'll be like COVID Day.
Yeah. Well,
R.I.P.
and this, I mean, it'll be, like I said before, it'll be curious to see what we keep and what
Mm,
defines everyone who went through this, right? With future
right.
generations of people, when they look back, like they're like, oh, those people lived through that, and that's why they are the way they are.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Those
but
millennials, what will they do
yeah,
now?
it's like people who lived through the Great Depression,
Yeah.
and things like that, where they don't spend as much money. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
we'll
be the
see.
ones who are like, I'm sorry, I don't share elevators.
I mean, I'd be okay getting rid of the handshake and going to
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Yeah.
the elbow,
Yeah. That like
the
slight
bow.
sweat on people's hands and bleh. Yeah, I'm fine with losing that completely. Yeah, bow. That's not too bad.
Yep. So to
Well,
kind of turn this around a little bit, I think I'm going to end with one more kind of strategy thing to think about, which is an energy
jeez.
audit. So
Mm,
You can do this on a monthly basis if you want. Most of us aren't going to, but that way you can get a little bit more fine grained. But if you want to do it from a year perspective, you can kind of look back and just basically go through your calendar if you have, especially because a lot of us are operating off of like Google Calendar and things like that,
Mm.
is to go through and observe the things that you did throughout the year. And essentially, you can do this in a notebook. If you have a paper calendar that you were writing, and you could actually highlight it somehow, that you're going to indicate that the things that give you energy you mark as green, and the things that take energy away are red. And the idea
Oh.
here is that some things that you think might take energy might actually give you energy, like going to the gym, going on walks, going camping, things like that. And really just figuring out like
Mhm.
where your energy is flowing. So the idea here isn't to only do things that recharge you, because there's going to be things that you're going to have to do that are going to be in that thing, the area that takes up energy. But the idea is that you don't want to spend your life energy doing things that you hate doing or don't want doing. So it's
Right.
if you have a meeting that's every single morning, but they're always red and nothing productive comes out of it,
Mm.
and you have some control over that meeting, then maybe it's time to change that meeting. If you're a freelancer and you're finding yourself just doing things the way you've always done them, but you always feel the same way, then it's just a good chance to look back and say, when I start my day going on a walk and then answer my email, I just feel better. Then that's a way to just think about switching up your day, right? And again, it's not to be
Mhm.
maximally productive. We're not trying to eke out every ounce of productive work that we can out of the
Right.
day, but
Maximum hustle.
yeah,
Right.
no maximum hustle. We're
Yeah.
just trying to figure out how do we take care of ourselves, and instead maybe allocate that time to get the work done, be productive in a short burst of time, close the laptop,
Yeah.
and then go do those things that do grant you energy, so that you can do that. And I think if we can do more of those things going into 2021,
Mhm.
knowing that we're going to be living the way that we're living now for a little bit longer, that can give you more energy. Like a friend of ours, another Colin Robertson, he's been going on like these, I think they're like 5 mile
Oh,
walks every day,
yeah. Yeah.
ever since March 15th or something. And so it's a lot of miles. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And he knew he needed to do that for himself, and that evidence just kind of stacked on top of itself the more
Mhm.
that he did it. So it's good.
Well,
Shout out to
you know,
Colin.
yes, big shout out to Colin. It's very interesting. I think as an introvert, being in group situations tend to be draining. Whereas with extroverts, the more people, the more energy they get. And it's not about sucking energy off of people, they just feel energized by being around a lot of people. And so I kind of figured with COVID, like it wasn't going to be too big of a deal. Like the idea of not being able to be in groups or meeting with people wasn't going to be too big of a deal because I preferred, having some time alone. But what COVID did show me, this COVID experience has shown me, is that I have some very particular, very near and dear to my heart groups that I do enjoy being a part
Mm-hmm.
of. And that sometimes when like I realized like even though like I love all the people, I can care very much for groups that I am in, but they can be draining.
Yeah.
And then those groups that I'm in that I care very much for as well are, like you said, like energy producing. And I was surprised that I had a couple of these groups, and one is my amazing book club, which maybe someday I'll share, but amazing group of women.
Protect that group. Protect it.
Yeah, so it's very protected. Um, and yeah, coming back from those meetings was always, or, dinners was always like, oh, I felt great about it. And now we've managed to move it to Zoom in a pretty effective, like energy giving way, which is really unexpected
Yeah.
because Zoom I find to be really draining, but there are moments on Zoom that are energy producing. So yeah, that's definitely one that I'll be evaluating more of, or giving more of the answer no to a group that I'm just not,
Yeah. Well, we
it's not my bag. Send me an email.
I think that does talk to a topic that we've had. I forgot who it was that we had do the class with us, but it was about saying no, and I think
Yes.
that we have been relieved a lot of having to say no this year, and that feels good. And that also hopefully you can write those things down that you're like, I don't think I'm going to do those in 2021,
Yeah.
and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
And you can protect some of those groups, right? They don't need to be something that everyone participates in. And it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like you're being an extrovert or an introvert isn't like a black and white thing, right? It changes
Right.
depending on who you're with. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I agree.
Cool. Well, I think that's
Well,
gonna
this
do
was
it for this
good.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm excited too because sometimes we have a plan, sometimes we need a little bit of extra time. But next week we're going to be talking with a member, and her name is Katie Welsh. She does social media. I think we've
And
talked about her
improv.
before on the show, but yes, and teaches Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, bilingual education, and she is going to be joining us. She's a performer as well. She does improv. And so she's going to be talking about, and I promise it will be entertaining because Katie's very entertaining. And she's going to be talking about improv skills that actually translate into business skills.
Nice.
And there are some really good ones beyond the, not taking yourself seriously and having a laugh every once in a while. There are some really important skills
She's
that
gonna
lead
make
off
us.
of improv.
She's gonna make us do improv.
She is.
It's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, she's already she's got a few what'd she call them? Some troubleshooting or something like this that she's gonna have us try out. So
Nice.
a couple of games for Rachel and Colin should be very entertaining.
Nice. And then the following week, we can tease this one too, but the following week is Danny Morris. So, friend of the show, she's going to be joining us to talk about food and drink to get ready for the next holiday so that you can kind of start to plan. She's a full time personal
Professional
sommelier.
Somali. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Sommelier. Um, so we can talk to her about wine and drinks and food pairings and all that kind of fun stuff. So, and how to do it on a budget or if you're looking to splurge a little bit. So, we're going to give you all the stuff you're looking for here, and we'll catch you next Wednesday at 5.
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And get into your end of New Year rituals. It's almost here.
Yeah, we'll share when we're gonna do the year compass with everybody. So definitely look for
Yes.
that. That'll
Yes.
probably be like a live Zoom, so we'll put the word out for that.
Yeah.
But awesome. Thanks for joining
Great.
us, and
Thank
we'll catch you
you.
next week. Thanks, everybody.
See ya. Bye.